It's load the box. It's Jordan and it's Will Bad Lose, the Bad Loser himself. The Vikings are bad winners, which I didn't know was a thing, but hey, apparently it is. Because not only do the Vikings win 12-7 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Will's Jacksonville Jaguars, best roster they've had in franchise history, according to Shad Khan. But, well, also bad winners because Detroit, who was dead to rights last night against Houston, or Sunday night against Houston, came back and won the game on a field goal. Feels bad, feels good, feels bad. That's going to be my first feels bad of the week, Will. Detroit pulling off a game that they should have lost. Jared Goff had 5 interceptions. One of them was Hail Mary before the half. Okay, then Jared Goff had 4 interceptions. That was a perfect chance for the Vikings to gain some ground, and instead, here we are. Still a game and a half back. It's all going to come down to week 18. So that feels bad. Will, let's start pessimistic. What feels bad?
The Dallas Cowboys, the team that I picked to be a wild card team. Let's make this a conglomerate. The Chicago Bears and the Dallas Cowboys, two teams that I picked to make the playoffs, both look dead in the water. The Cowboys they're going to be without Dak Prescott for the rest of the season, barring some miracle, and they can't score points. And their defense, since Mike Zimmer showed up, is bad. So that ship is sinking. The Chicago Bears.
Who could have told you that a Mike Zimmer defense would be bad? Who could have seen that one coming?
We unload the clip now, or should we?
Oh, let's wait. We can unload it at some point.
The Chicago Bears, a team that, of course, we like seeing them fail from a fan perspective. But man, I mean, they can't score. Their generational talent quarterback Caleb Williams has about a 50% completion percentage weekly, it seems. They can't move the ball. They can't score. Their defense is playing fine. They just can't put the ball in the end zone. And it feels as if this is going to be my first hot take of the day. Matt Eberflus, in my opinion, has one more game. And when they lose to the Packers on Sunday, he will be fired. And then the Vikings will get the gift of the interim head coach uptick in energy from the Chicago Bears come week 12, I believe it is. So not looking forward to that, but so that's what feels bad from my seat here, Jordan.
That's a good hot take. Let me rally off of that. Feels good. Arizona as a wild card team feels like a chef's kiss. The Vikings as a wild card team feels like a chef's kiss. The Bucks as a division winner, like the Bucks. Look, yes, they keep losing games, but I'm oddly invested in the Bucks. I bought a lot of. I had them winning the Super Bowl this season. They're down their 2 best wide receivers. They continue to lose games on field goals, it feels like. So I'm okay with... Oh, on last... I think they lost in OT to the Chiefs. So by a touchdown in that case. But feels good that... I feel like I got the NFC correct. We'll leave Vegas alone. We'll stop talking about that. But feels good. Like Arizona... Which it sucks because the Vikings have Arizona on the schedule, but I feel like a lot of people penciled them in as a cupcake before the season. Even at the beginning of the season, no, they look like a solid football team. Kyler Murray, I think, is. Tell me if this is crazy, but I think he is a whale. I think all NFL football players are aware of their social media memes, if that makes sense. So Kyler Murray knows there's a joke that when the new Call of Duty comes out, his stats plummet. So I think he's playing a tick above what he would normally expect because he's like, hey, you know what, guys? F you. I'm not playing Call of Duty. I'm a professional. I have weapons now. We have a run game. The defense is feisty. So that's I think that's real. Do you think that's real? Do you think guys know those statuses in the memes?
I think it's got to be real to some. I think it's got to be real to some extent, especially for young guys and guys like Kyler Murray who are very social media aware. I mean, didn't Call of Duty even use him in their ad campaign, like making fun of
Yeah,
him using like his name to like on
I
some
think he's
random white
in the
guy who's
game.
the
Like he's in the game
okay.
as like a player. Or like I don't. I sound so old because I haven't played a
Fantastic.
Call of Duty in a few years now. I've shifted my gaming to more like indie stuff. But like yeah, I think he's in the game. You can be Kyler Murray shooting people like in Call of Duty, which is crazy
It's
because he's shooting
hilarious.
defenses.
To think that he turned his biggest meme into his biggest
And
marketing campaign is fantastic.
the best thing you can do is lean into the meme. Like,
Absolutely.
what are you gonna do? Like, what's Kyler? Like, is Kyler Murray gonna go? I think it's why people hate. Here we go. Throw the Vikings Jags game out the window. I'm getting on one, and I want you to get on one with me. Worst thing you can be as an athlete is Kevin Durant. Where you are so concerned about your image that when people start calling you a snake or saying that you're bad or they criticize you, you go and you make a burner account and you start defending yourself because you can't say the things you want to say as an athlete, which I understand. There is a level of professionalism you have to keep. But that's the worst thing you can be. The best thing you can be is like Kirk Cousins embracing being a suburban Caucasian dad who shops at J.C. Penney and Kohl's. So he said, yeah, it's really funny if I put a bunch of chains on and act like, I don't know, 50 Cent for a day because people think that's hilarious because I'm a dad. I have 2 kids. I was in a Netflix. Oh, does he have 3 kids?
Too.
Yeah, just 2. But like his Netflix, the quarterback show, he loses the playoff game. He goes home and he reads his kids a bedtime story. He's the most white blood human being that's ever existed. But no, like throw the chains on and spin the spinner chain and Big Coco wakes up dripping like that. Like it's fun and it leads to a lot of fun stuff. Like him swag surfing down in Atlanta. I mean, it's not. I think that's the best thing an athlete can do.
Yeah. And back to the Cardinals on a football perspective. I mean, we should have seen this coming. Week 1, yeah, week 1's weird, but they gave the Bills everything they wanted in Buffalo in week 1.
For sure.
And it got maybe a little bit rocky there for a couple weeks. They got blown out by the Commanders. They lost to the Lions, but then they had some really quality wins. And I guess they also got blown up by the Packers. But they had some quality wins in there, and they've kind of just been stacking wins. So Cardinals, I think, they've got a couple tougher games coming up with a couple with the Seahawks. Things. One more with the 49ers, another one with the Rams. So they are by no means a lock to make the postseason, but they're looking way more peachy than I think I gave them credit for sure. The Bucks, I can understand why you're seeing that as a feels good because they're in all these games, and yes, like losing one-score games, the Vikings had it happen last year where you lose some one-score games, and that's the difference between the playoffs and going home. But the good thing for the Bucks is they have Giants, Panthers, Raiders next.
Yeah.
So you can't just, bank wins that haven't happened, but you got those 3 that very winnable games. I got the Panthers again later. You got the Cowboys. It's just there's a lot of wins left on Tampa's schedule. So if they can sort of find a way to win some of these close games, I think they'll be in fine shape with,
Yeah.
And then the Falcons who have already played like almost their entire division schedule. So there's a chance here for Tampa to make up some ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
The feels good for me, I think. I'm just going to hammer on, not even really hammer. I'm just going to quick double click. My Eagles and my Lions picks continue to look good. Lions painfully so. Jordan, I turned that game off after interception number 4. I thought it was over.
Yeah.
And I don't often do that with Lions games because they are capable of what they did last night. So I guess I've been fooled once and I won't be fooled again, but it's pretty remarkable what that team's able to do. And their belief level is sky high. I mean, that's a good team they beat. That's not the Vikings going to Jacksonville and surviving a 3-interception day by Sam Darnold. I mean, that's going on the road against a good team, playoff team last year, really good young quarterback, 5 interceptions, and they somehow managed to win the game. I mean,
It's crazy.
That's some pretty impressive stuff. Why don't we take that as a launching point? You know, we got the
Yeah,
Spider-Man meme of Darnold and Goff here from yesterday.
it's a good
Um,
segue too because pointing at I don't know this stat. I would assume teams that have 5 interceptions have a terrible record. Like just blanket. If you have 5 interceptions in a game, you probably don't win a lot of those games. Did you know that the Vikings became the first team in NFL history yesterday to have their quarterback throw 3 interceptions, score 0 touchdowns, and still walk away with a W? We take them no matter how ugly they are. I don't know what's better, and this is the question that I'll pose to you, and then I'll let you kick us off to start talking about this game. Would you rather have yesterday bad offense, really good defense performance in a win, or would you rather have seen the defense give up like 29 to Mac Jones and the offense give up or put up like 37 in what all they're both wins, but would you do you have a preference or do you not care?
I think I prefer the defensive game. Um, and I think it's largely because that's what this team's identity is. Um, is it's a defensive first team with explosive playability on offense. And now yesterday, obviously the explosive plays were not there, and then, the explosive plays that did happen were going the other way, but I think when I look at a team, I prefer to have wins the way that they maybe fit more into their identity. And so I really have liked now what I've seen from the defense these last 2 weeks. And granted, I mean, we can be honest, Jordan, like the Colts and the Jaguars aren't scaring anybody offensively, but um, to only allow 20 total points in 2 weeks is a really impressive showing. And I'm glad you asked the question the way you did, because that's how I wanted to start the thoughts on this game, was not focusing on Sam Darnold and his mistakes, but focusing on what the defense was able to do. I was especially impressed by the front. The running game for Jacksonville never got going, and the outside linebacking group, they all chipped in. Having Cashman back was so helpful. Really had 2 sacks. He kind of took one away from himself by grabbing Mac Jones' face mask. He wouldn't have needed to do that. It was a sack either way. Unfortunate hand placement. We will refrain from roasting officials. So, I mean, it was just really an impressive game. I mean, you look at the final stat line, it's almost jaw-dropping. 143 total yards allowed. They gave up 70 of those on one drive. That touchdown drive was a 70-yard drive, and then the rest of the game, all the drives combined, they gave up 73 yards. So, just ludicrous. I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care if they have Christian Kirk or not. It's an NFL offense that
Oh,
had no ability to even get first downs. I think they finished the game with single-digit first downs. It's just incredible what that group has been able to do, especially these last couple weeks. And I mean, I think one player I really wanted to highlight, that maybe didn't get as much press as maybe the rest, the guys who had takeaways and stuff, was Jonathan Grenard.
yeah.
In the run game, he was just everywhere. And it was either tackles for loss or tackles for 0 to 1 yard gains. And the little things like that don't necessarily, show up as like, oh, we got 3 sacks today. I think he did have one, but he just had an impressive all-around game. It was something that Flores was talking about last week, of Bernard being a guy who's a two-way player, a guy who can, stop the run and also rush the passer. And
Yeah.
he showed up. He was just a name that I kept writing down during the game, of he showed up over and over in the run game. And then when those guys needed to make a play in the pass game, they did.
Yeah, it sucks that guys like that don't get the recognition that they should. Like, if you have, a 12 sack season, but you are just dominant in the run game, you're one of the best, pass rushers, or you're one of the best ends, in all of football. You don't get the recognition as the guy who sucks in run defense but got home, 17, 18 times. And, I think we kind of saw that with Daniil. Well, Daniil always played the run really well, and Daniil also would get about 16-ish sacks, a little less than that probably, more like 15. But it was just year after year of just like, yep, he's going to give you about 15 sacks. He's going to be a stud in the run game. He's going to do everything you want. But like, I think Grenard being younger, being maybe, I don't want to say he's better than Daniil. I think they're comparable. And so the fact that we were able to trade Daniil, not trade him literally, but Daniil walked away and we brought in just a new Daniil Hunter. His Instagram posts don't look as, freakish. He doesn't look like an Avenger. But, like, still a very good athlete. I'm really happy with that move. I think that's probably the best move they made this offseason if you don't count drafting. Because look, the best move they made this offseason's on my T-shirt, right? I mean, it's J.J. McCarthy. But Grenard is probably the best free agent they brought in, which is saying something, because Andrew Van Ginkel on the other side is an incredible addition. He had a sack yesterday, a huge sack, where, it looked like how Mac Jones held onto that football, I'll never understand. But Van Ginkel pushed him down. It looked like an older kid pushing down a smaller kid in the sandbox. But, yeah, man, defense playing out of its mind, and I know it's Jacksonville, and everybody's like poo-pooing, like, oh, it's, they didn't have Christian Kirk, and it was, look, they have a first-round wide receiver who's put up very good numbers, whose name is Brian Thomas Jr. They have Gabe Davis, who's been a pretty decent contributor for a championship contender in Buffalo all of his life. Oh, career. So they have him. They have Evan Ingram, who is a crazy good receiving tight end. And they have Travis Etienne, who has a history of being a good running back. He's having a really bad year. But Tank Bigsby's having a really good year. I don't want to pretend that Jacksonville is this offensively inept, terrible team. The problem all season's been their defense, which is why this game was concerning to me. Because the Vikings offense looked bad. Correction, the Vikings offense looked incredibly fine until they got into the red zone and Sam Darnold said, Justin Jefferson has to be down there somewhere. And it really was bad ball placement, which I don't know which is worse. I really don't with Sam at this point, because if it's bad decisions, maybe you can coach that out. You can be like, look, I know you want to throw it to JJ in the red zone. We're just going to stop throwing it to JJ in the red zone, okay? We're going to look for Hawkinson in the red zone. We're going to do other things. He's only there as a distraction. One of the picks, the one that was I'm going to pretend you're Sam for a minute, audience. The one where, like, Jefferson was on the right side of the end zone and Sam threw the pick, it was behind Jefferson. The one where Jefferson was streaking across the back of the end zone, right to left, it was behind and low. Like, these are just not bad ball placements. These are some of the worst ball placements, like, ever. Last week against the Colts, that interception where he's trying to float one into Hawkinson, it would have gotten picked off by 2 or 3 guys if the original guy didn't make the pick. Even if you throw a really good ball there, it's probably getting picked. You threw the ball so bad, it looked like you were trying to throw the ball to the other team. So I don't know if it's a mechanics issue. I don't know if it's just a Sam problem. That's unacceptable. And that's the Vikings are making the playoffs. I think we're all on board with that at this point. There's a good chance they are sitting at 9 wins when we do this show at Thanksgiving. The Vikings aren't going to win any playoff games if Sam does not pull himself out of this. Now, luckily, he does have a head coach that continues to say, I believe in you. I trust you. We're going to run the offense through you. I'm not going to put training wheels on you. It's on Sam at this point. I truly think that. Unfortunately, this is my big hot take. I think you know what? Actually, I'll save this. I'll kick it back to you. I'll save my biggest hot take from this game until a little bit later because it's a little lengthier. What did you think of Sam and the offense as a whole in this one? Only putting up 12 against an abysmal Jacksonville team.
Something that Kevin O'Connell mentioned twice yesterday after the game and also today in his Monday afternoon press conference was how the Jacksonville defense basically committed to a shell coverage concept the whole game. He used 90%. I think that was actually a pretty accurate statistic. I think he kind of pulled it out of his butt, but I think 90% actually ended up being pretty accurate. Where basically they were just daring Minnesota. Take 5 yards. Go ahead. Throw it underneath. I dare you to do that all game. And I mean, the Vikings did a decent job of that, frankly. I mean, they had, I think, 4 drives of 10 plus plays or more. And so, they did a good job of moving the ball down the field with that sort of approach of being limited to deep shots and being limited to these explosive plays that have just, buoyed their season and frankly killed Jacksonville's. I think Jacksonville had given up the most explosive plays in the NFL this year. Whereas the Vikings had the most explosive pass plays in the NFL. So Jacksonville basically sold out and said, we're not going to let you beat us over the top. And part of me wonders, Jordan, if that's going to be the recipe moving forward against this team. Is it just going to be, we're going to dare you to take 5 yards to Hawkinson and Josh Oliver over and over again and not get bored? Because I think even though this team has shown the ability to do that, I think Kevin O'Connell loves explosive plays. And although he would say that he, can understand that like explosive plays aren't just deep shots, because there was a couple yesterday to the tight ends where it was catch and run of a bunch of yards. So explosive plays can happen on short to intermediate throws. I think Kevin O'Connell understands that explosives are necessary for scoring touchdowns, and I also think he just loves them too much. So I think there's a point where either he or especially his quarterback, at least yesterday, got impatient. And on that second interception, I think it was second and goal, you don't need to throw that ball. Just chuck it through the uprights and make it third and goal. Like that's not a throw you have to make. The deep shot to Addison that got intercepted, that ended up getting called back.
Oh, well,
He has a cannon.
Oh, you're doing that thing where you delay for a second.
I think.
Give us 1 second, audience. All right, technical difficulties. Will, please continue.
So yeah, we're back. Sorry about that. I think the biggest takeaway for me, referencing a couple plays from yesterday, some little bit of hero ball moments from Darnold. I think he knows he has the ability to make big plays. He's shown the ability to make big plays off script, down the field, etc. I just think he falls in love with it too much, and I think, at least up to this point, not saying he and O'Connell can't adjust, but I think maybe their weakness collectively is the desire for explosives. And I think, although that can be a strength if, harnessed in the right direction, I think defenses are probably going to take this approach of what Jacksonville did. Just daring this team to just take 4 yards on the ground with Aaron Jones, 6 yards in the air to TJ Hawkinson, who was fantastic, by the way, yesterday. But so those sorts of things, I think that's something I'm going to be looking for the rest of the way.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I like the idea. I mean, I think that's just very well put to be brief, I guess. I'm not going to reiterate what you're saying. I just think that that's very well put. And that is something where this is, okay, O'Connell, we want you to be the best coach in the NFL, or at least in that conversation where, one of the best 3 to 5 coaches in the league. You're going to, like, Andy Reid went through this. I mean, I know Andy Reid's a lot more seasoned, but Andy Reid with Mahomes, oh my gosh, they're so explosive, they're so crazy, and then they would go through stretches where it's like, hey, everyone's just playing cover 2. Tyreek Hill's not really doing anything. And they're losing games or winning games like 7-10 or 10-7. You know what I mean? Like, are the Chiefs broken? And it's like, no, they just had to learn to play conservative style, football. And I think, I think the Jags bank on the fact that, yeah, look, if you make Sam throw the ball, not throw the ball, but if you make the Vikings go on 10, 15 play drives, Sam's going to do something stupid eventually. And so hopefully that's a trend that can break. We can, because Sam in the red zone is kind of all over the place, and that's kind of a problem. This is my hot take that I wanted to bring up, and this is a little bit of a criticism of Kevin O'Connell, although I'm not putting yesterday's lack of production on him. The offense had like 400 plus yards, and we held the ball for like almost 50, for almost 3/4 of the game.
Insane.
Yeah, it was insane. It was an insane offense. Like, it was a domination of a game that somehow we only managed to get 12 points out of. But sometimes it feels like Kevin O'Connell plays what I'm going to coin Disney Channel football, where he says, life is a Disney movie. Aaron Jones back to Lambeau. Let's give him the ball a million times and make sure Sam versus the Jets in London. Let's throw the ball a million times and, get Sam his stats and stuff and it happens to the detriment of the team. So, feel like there was a little bit of Disney Channel football, the potential for Disney Channel football. Let's go back. You remember when Sam Darnold took that sack that knocked us out of field goal range and we ended up punting from like slightly past the 50? I got on X and everyone and their moms was saying, you can't take a sack there. We're in field goal range. You got to throw the ball away. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, let's look at what happens if Sam throws the ball away. Doesn't get grounding, throws the ball at somebody's feet. O'Connell probably does Disney Channel football and sends Johnny XFL, who granted was 4 for 4 and, put up all 12 points for the Vikings, but probably sends Johnny XFL, who's been with this team for a cup of coffee in the offseason and now like 10 minutes, to kick a 50-plus yard field goal in a game that's going to be decided by, a matter of feet. Like, it's a game of inches, but a matter of feet are going to decide this game. Probably a good thing Sam got sacked there and made Kevin O'Connell punt in that situation, because it's my personal belief, a missed field goal is a turnover on the head coach, like in some situations. And if you trot Johnny XFL, I refuse to call him his actual name because I can't pronounce it, and it's too many, of those R's that I can't say very well. If you trot Johnny XFL out on the field for like a 50-plus yard field goal and he misses it, yeah, O'Connell, you just turned the ball over, so, because why are you doing that? So, kind of glad Sam got sacked there. I know I have the benefit of hindsight knowing that we would go on to win the game, but I don't know, man. It just, that's one of my feels, and that's something that I'm almost afraid of this Atlanta game more than I should be, because I feel like O'Connell is going to try and make his offense look a lot better than what it is. Like, he's going to try and go for those splash plays a lot more, and he's going to try to push the ball more so he can show everybody, like, oh, it was me that made the offense hum the last few seasons, not Cousins. It was me that did that. Look, I'm doing it with Sam now. The same stuff I was doing with Coke. And it's like, I don't know. It's just something I observed. I wanted to point it out. That can kind of be my final thoughts on this Jacksonville debacle. Glad we got the dub. Tennessee, oh man, we really need. I need cleansing against Tennessee. We'll talk about that later in the week, but I need just an evisceration of the Titans. Whether or not we actually get that, we'll discuss that later. But Will, I'll let you take us to the break / the end of the video for the YouTube people.
Very good. My last just summations of this game, just a couple bullet points, kind of emptying the notebook, as they say. First of all, Jacksonville defense, I was not familiar with your game. I apologize. I clowned you last week when Jordan asked me what should we be worried about, and I laughed and said not the defense. Well, yes, he gave up a lot of yards, but you did your best Ed Donatel impression and turned the ball over 3 times. So, golf clap for you. Well done. My last couple notes here, it's just the defense. We started this segment with the defense. I'm going to end it with the defense. They are dripping in swagger. They expect takeaways every game. They get mad at themselves if they don't have multiple. They finished this game in the last 7 minutes, turning over Jacksonville 3 times on 3 straight possessions. They didn't have a takeaway all game, and then when it had to happen, they got 3 of them. So in a game that looked like the Vikings were assured to lose the turnover margin, they ended up having an even. Unbelievable. Just just swagger dripping out of these guys' pores. It's
Yeah.
it's something that you love to see from the defense because you have to have it to play NFL defense. The rules are stacked against you. The offensive skill players are incredible. But to go out there and expect to do what they do week in and week out is it's infectious and it's really impressive. So that'll be it for the the Jacksonville part of the show. We'll talk to you guys later this week on the YouTube side in a few minutes here on the podcast side about Tennessee. Skol, y'all.